This is the Private Officer Beat Radio with Rick McCann at the microphone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Private Officer International. I'm Rick McCann, founder and CEO of Private Officer and Armor College and several other businesses. I won't bore you with all of those details. I am happy, thankful that you all are listening. Many of you are streaming. We are streaming our programs on more than 30 platforms where you can get your music, podcasts, and other audios. And we've recently been picked up by 2 new platforms. We didn't ask for it, but they evidently heard the program and decided that this was a good radio show to put on their platform. And they've added it, and we are negotiating, or talking to, I should say, not really negotiations, but talking to a major platform. Private Officer Radio has been on the air now for almost 20 years with 700 plus radio shows. And for any platform, whether you're a podcast or you're a big-time network radio show, 700 radio shows is a pretty big accomplishment. And on a side note, we've already accomplished another goal, 150 radio programs on our newest radio show, which we kicked off a little over a year ago, and that's called Coastal Alabama Highway 98 Radio, which is a local radio show that has to do with life along the Gulf Coast, and specifically in and around the Florida, Northwest, Alabama, and eastern Mississippi on the Gulf Coast. And we have really had bigger success on that radio program with a larger distribution, a larger listenership in just a little over a year. I'm very proud of that. The platform there started just as a little bit of a radio show about one specific area in the country, and now we've had people from other countries listening in now, so it's a big accomplishment. But not to toot my own horn, this past week we got notice from a blog organization that this radio show, both Private Officer and our newest one, Coastal Alabama, has hit big numbers on their platform, and I'm stoked this week, as you probably can tell. But here's the downside, folks, and this is just keeping it real 100% because that's who I am. Unfortunately, with millions of security officers out there, we should have hundreds of thousands of listeners every program. That doesn't happen. Thankfully, we do have thousands, but not hundreds of thousands. We could be a big voice in the private security, private law enforcement community via the radio show, via the different platforms that we offer, including our news blog, social media, and the fact that we have, I think, one of the top news departments in the field. I mean, how often do you find a private security association or organization employing people to get the latest news and information out to you as quickly as possible in multiple ways, multiple methods? And that's what we've done for almost the entire 20 years that we've been around, since the conception. We started a news blog and a posting on social media immediately after we began Private Officer, and at that time it was called the National Association of Private Officers, but it quickly went international, and so we had to change that corporate name and our moniker and everything else to do with it, because we had so many people from other countries that wanted to join. So, but the long and short of this conversation really is that we've accomplished a lot even without the majority of the security industry becoming part. Now today I've got a lot of broadcast time left, and I want to share some insight with you on what's happening and how you can get involved. We try to do that frequently, and when I come back from the first break, I'm going to give you an opportunity. If you're not already a Private Officer International member, I'm going to give you an opportunity to join and to receive a spectacular offer, including free training. Now, for those of you who are already members, if you send someone to us to become a member, we'll give you a free training course. I'll explain it all to you coming back from the first break. This week, we've got a lot going on across the board between different companies, and I want to talk to you also about a poignant conversation that I had this past week with one of our he probably is a founding member of Private Officer International, one of the first few that joined way back when, and I'll tell you what he says about what's happening not only in the business, but in the lack of concern and response from security people. And I've got a whole lot more to talk about, but we are going to take a quick break here on the Private Officer Beat Radio. You're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector, and we'll be right back.
It's a very simple thing. It only takes 2 seconds. We all know we should do it. We all say we do it. But do we? About 35,000 people were killed in motor vehicle accidents last year. More than half were not wearing a seatbelt. A brother, a father, a mother, a best friend. Is it worth it? I lost a sister. Don't let it happen to you and your family. Tell the people you love to buckle up.
Across the country, there's a new 3-digit emergency number if you're feeling suicidal, if you're experiencing a life crisis. 988 is now the 3 digits that you can dial, just like 911 across the country. You'll connect with mental health professionals, and the 988 number will connect you with the Crisis Lifeline, formerly known as the National Suicide Prevention Line. Veterans can press 1 after dialing 988 to connect directly to the Veterans Crisis Lifeline, which serves our nation's veterans, service members, National Guard, and Reserve members, and those who support them. For text, veterans should continue to text the Veterans Crisis Lifeline, short code 838255. Too many people experience suicidal crisis or mental health-related distress without the support and care that they need. But you're not alone. Simply pick up the phone and dial or text 988. Someone will answer that phone who is caring, understanding, and there to help you. 988. There is hope.
This past weekend was the annual Faith and Blue across the country, where faith leaders and law enforcement partner to work to help relationships in the community. The National Faith and Blue Weekend, it works to bridge the gap between law enforcement and those in the community they serve. Many cities held picnics and different types of events and outings. If you're not involved, you need to be. Go to Faith and Blue. I myself love this organization, and I hope that you'll look into it and support it as an individual or as a company. Before I move any further on with the radio program today, and I don't know how many times I've said this over the 2 dozen, 3 dozen years, probably hundreds, thousands of times, I'm sure, by now. But because Private Officer International has its own full-time news department, we get to see, we get to hear, we get to know a lot of things that's happening, not only in the security industry, but law enforcement, public safety, and many other professions because we read a lot of news, 3,000 plus news sources these days. We scan through some that we're interested in and others that we're not. We still kind of take a glimpse at it and retain some of that information. This past weekend, private security was involved in at least 17 use of force. Either they shot someone, they were involved in a shootout, and things are getting worse, but no one wants to claim it. Nobody wants to agree with it. No one wants to step forward and say, yes, it is. Now, one of those shootings occurred in Ferguson, Missouri, and if that does ring a bell with you, and even if it doesn't, Ferguson, outside of St. Louis, was the scene of a riot. A complete burn down the city riot, hundreds injured after a man was killed in a struggle to take a police officer's gun. You probably remember it, but it went on across the country for weeks. Well, this is the same Ferguson. A security officer on duty at a Quick Trip gas station, they're a national chain, was working at the station. Some customer came in, gave a cashier, an employee of the store, a hard time, went back out to the vehicle, came back in, got into some kind of confrontation with security. Many of Quick Trips are they have armed security on duty in many states, and something happened where the security officer and the customer each pulled their gun and got into a shootout. The security officer fatally wounded the man, and the security officer himself was also shot, but because he was wearing body armor, he survived, and he was released after treatment from the hospital. Now, at first glance, everything looked like it was self-defense and a good shooting, but something occurred within 8 hours because now police have arrested the security officer, saying that he was the actual instigator of this whole situation, and that it was actually him who fired the first shot. The St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office charged him with voluntary manslaughter. Now that's just one step down from murder, and you have involuntary and you have voluntary. Involuntarily usually means that, you know, the weight of what occurred wasn't your fault directly, but voluntary manslaughter means that there was some criminal aspect to this, and that you killed that person intentionally. Not only was he charged with voluntary manslaughter, but he's also been charged with a felony called armed criminal action. I'm not familiar with that charge, and I haven't had time to research Missouri law, but I do know that these are felonies, and he's still currently being held in jail on an all-cash bond, $50,000. Now, recently, many states have instituted, sign here on the dotted line and get out of jail. But for this security officer, he has not been released. Some of the other shootings that happened over the same time frame, a security officer in Philadelphia is under investigation after shooting a man outside of a nightclub. This was a contract security officer. Some type of confrontation ensued, and they brought it outside. A Charlotte security officer shot a man who he saw pointing a gun at a woman in the downtown area. CNBC, Charlotte Mecklenburg Police, now say in their investigation they determined that this was a domestic dispute, and the man may have wanted to shoot the woman. The security officer has not been arrested, but the investigation continues. A security officer is dead after being shot 3 times. Police are conducting an investigation just outside of Houston. Other shootings have also occurred over the weekend. Police in a number of cities still investigating, and we're still looking at the news roundup. So I'll be able to bring you more on this coming up. And if you still get our newsletters, you probably already have seen it and know about it. If not, you can go to our website at privateofficer.org and sign up today. $50 subscription, less than $5 a month, about $4 and change. Well, worth it. All right, well, we got a lot more that I want to talk about here on today's radio program, so we'll be right back.
Some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Are you looking for the finest private security officer training in the Charlotte metropolitan area? Do you need PPS qualifications in armed or unarmed training? Or maybe you're over there across the line in South Carolina and you need the SLED training. Well, we've got the right training at the right time for you. Premier Training Academy, located at 5624 Executive Center Drive, Suite 142 in metropolitan Charlotte, North Carolina. Give them a call today, 704-806-4933. They also offer firearms training, personal protection, first aid and CPR, and so much more. Call John at 704-806-4933. Welcome to October the 9th, 2023. This is Columbus Day, or in some areas they're calling it Indigenous Day, and I have no problem with that. The Indians were definitely here much sooner than we were, or definitely than I was, so I have no problem with that. But Columbus Day, many banks, federal agencies, the Postal Service, and other governmental agencies are shut down. Schools have a break, a holiday, and many companies. This is one of their paid holidays. I know when I was in the business world, we had at first we had 6 or 7, then it was 9, 12, and then eventually 15 holidays. And Columbus Day has been one of those days. So happy Columbus and Indigenous Day. I hope that you're enjoying it. Maybe you have it off because of wherever you work. This is a holiday for them. And so, enjoy your time. If not, that's okay too. Thank you for whatever it is that you do. And, I even have gotten into the practice of thanking store cashiers and people on the floor at the store and other people for what they do. And I think that's all coming from COVID. A lot of people went out and they did the job, they worked, and they really provided a service. And many, and I probably would even say most of those who went out there knew the threat. They knew that they could catch COVID. They might even die from COVID. And some did, including some security, law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, and other public safety, but also grocery store workers and frontline workers and office workers. And so I just have gotten into the habit of, just casually saying thank you and thanks for being here and thanks for your service. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Anyways, today on the program, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking about the good we do. See how that rolled right into the topic, the good we do. I haven't really
updated you on some of these folks that are being recognized for doing great work. It's been a while, so I wanted to catch up on that. We're also going to be talking about Crime Stoppers and how you can get involved in the next segment, and Armor Schools, but even more exciting, how to own a business with no money. I'm going to be attempting one more time. This is something that I tried during COVID. It didn't work out too well. I'm going to give you an opportunity to own a business. When we come back on the third segment, we'll talk about that. But I do want to update you, if you're not a private officer member, if you join right now for $99, go to privateofficer.org. Right there, a button says specials or something on the front page. We will give you a free $400 course on mine of our choosing, and we'll send you a POI patch and lapel pin, all for $99. I highly doubt that you can find that offer from any other security association, from any other police association. I know I'm a member of numerous ones. They're very expensive, upwards of $400 and $500 now just to join. And so if you do this, you're going to have some pretty big benefits right off the bat, plus 50 member benefits that we already offer. And I'll tell you what, I'll sweeten the pie, as they say. Join now as a POI member. I'll throw in a free $20 private officer memorial bracelet that we're offering for $20 right now. I'll give it to you for free. Join to become a member, $99. I think I'm giving the store away. There's no doubt about that. But sometimes you do what you got to do, and I'm okay with that. We really want everyone, law enforcement, loss prevention, retail investigators, ORC investigators, bail bondsmen, bail enforcement, private police, uniformed security. If you're working in public safety, or you are in the public safety regulatory industry, or you are maybe just somebody who wants to support public safety and private security, I encourage you to join and become a member and experiencing all the benefits that we have. And remember, we're always thinking of ways to even increase those benefits. And if you have any suggestions, contact us at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. I really want to get into the Crime Stoppers, how we help and how you can help, along with the benevolent teams, and starting a chapter maybe in your area, and so much more. And we'll do that when we come back from this next break. Remember, you can read our news 24 hours a day at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. You can also go to our social media, facebook.com/Private Officer International, or twitter.com/Private Officer. When I come back, we'll talk about the good that we do, and I want to tell you the poignant conversation, this really direct, heart-to-heart conversation that I had, and I'll tell you his name was Glenn, and how he sees things after being in law enforcement and security for more than 50 years. I'm coming up on that pretty fast. I hate to kind of admit it, but yeah, I'm over the hill. And I'll tell you his take on it, and the take that I've heard from others over the last probably couple of years. But there's a lot of good things happening, and yet there's some not so good things either. We're coming right back on the Private Officer Beat Radio. Don't go away.
Each day, those that protect and service in law enforcement put their lives on the line. These law enforcement officers often work long and irregular hours in tough and dangerous conditions, run a high risk of being attacked, wounded, or even killed by the very criminals that prey on us. Every year, hundreds of law enforcement officers are killed or seriously injured in the line of duty. Blue Alert is a system that provides the means to speed the apprehension of violent criminals who kill or seriously injure local, state, or federal law enforcement officers. Find out how you can truly help those who help. That's bluealert.us.
Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. Whether you're looking for the top quality protective armor or protective clothing, stab-resistant vest or gloves, contact my friend Ben over at Body Armor USA. Give him a call, 516 area code 817-1666. Again, that's area code 516 817-1666. Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. No doubt about it.
On today's radio show, at the bottom of the program, we're going to talk about the 3 pieces of equipment that you need, whether you're armed or an unarmed security officer, no matter where you work, whether you're working in retail or you're working at a office complex, a campus, wherever you're working today, you need these 3 pieces of equipment. I'm not talking about, a lot of people think, we need a pen, we need a notepad, we need this, they're thinking, yes, in general, those are some of the things that you do need, but we'll be talking about the 3 essential pieces of equipment that you need, no doubt about it, and I hope that you'll stay tuned and listen in. This past week, I had an opportunity to talk with a longtime POI member. We email back and forth and text more than we have a chance to talk on the phone, and because we live a great distance apart, we don't see each other. It's been many years since I've seen Glenn. However, he's from my home state, Connecticut, and he's a retired police sergeant, owns a security company for quite a few years, originally started as industrial security. Most of the jobs that he picked up was industrial factories and warehouses, and so they had gate guards, they did the clock rounds, they did all of the industrial type security, access control, just a guard, just like any other, think of Pinkerton, think of any company, maybe it's still part of what your company does. Many security businesses still sell that access control. In fact, recently on a business trip, I was noticing in that town there were a lot of industrial businesses still there, and they had a lot of gate security. The gates were closed and people were being checked in. They had another gate for trucks, 18-wheelers coming in, and they had a security officer there, and they had a weigh station. That was one of the jobs that I had many, many years ago. I had to weigh the trucks at that entry, and so yeah, they're still around. So we were talking about how he got involved in the business and what type of business and how things have changed over the years. We talked about 9/11. We talked about how many companies after 9/11 changed some of their policies and strengthened their security, layered up their security, as I talked about in last week's program. But also, we've seen a drastic decrease of that over the years. Some companies kind of became lax. Some companies got rid of security altogether. The industrial aspect of the business has kind of fell off, but another type of business is definitely hot these days. We're talking about personal security and becoming involved in enforcement, and specifically Glenn and I was talking about the changes in that enforcement, the methods that are being provided, the training expectations, I guess, from clients. Things have changed, but the industry has not changed that much. In fact, unfortunately, because many large companies have bought many of the regional companies, it's all pretty much similar. It's kind of like a builder who goes in and builds a subdivision, but he uses a cookie cutter method. All the houses look the same. There might be a different color, might be a little bit different in some, little way, but it's a cookie cutter method. Puts up 200 houses real fast and moves on to the next subdivision. And because many companies like Allied Universal have bought out other major companies, and then those companies buy out the middleman, the middle companies, a lot of the security services look the same. The training requirements, the training aspect, the professionalism, even the uniform quality and the way that people are recruited, the way that they dress, everything looks pretty much the same, even though the job is different. The job of security in 1965, 1975, 1985, 1995 was pretty much access control at the gatehouse. You might have them all to patrol unarmed. You might have done a little school security back then. But today, you have a lot more people that are armed. You have a lot more use of force incidents. You have a lot more opportunities if you work in security of being hurt than probably even 20 years ago. And you definitely have a lot more enforcement authority, whether that's parking enforcement or issuing trespass warnings. I've mentioned over the last 6 months, security companies now being authorized to write actual city parking tickets, parking lane violations, fire lane, handicap, that sort of thing. And I've talked a lot about private policing in the last 3 or 4 years. This is a growing area of private security. So many times, not always, but many times, private security companies go through some specialized training and they become private police on their property. And you're going to see more and more of this because for dozens and dozens of years in the UK and Australia and other foreign countries, they've always had some form of private police. Canada is another country that has used peace officers, private police, for many, many, many moons. We have to understand that with this added responsibility and with this added authority, we need to really do better on training and on hiring. Of course, that's hard to do when you just don't have people coming through the door. Law enforcement can tell you this. It's very difficult to hire people, even though many cities have substantially increased the wages. And that goes to private security as well. Not all, but many. When I come back, Glenn and I, we're on the same page. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not on the same page. I don't know what to do. We're a pretty large organization. We've been around a long time. We have a lot of contacts, both with regulatory agencies, security companies, and many others, politicians, many others who could help to make change. But it seems like everyone is happy with status quo, and that's just not going to get it. When I come back, we'll talk about the good that we do. There's plenty of good that security officers are doing out there, but I think that we really, like I said last week, I really don't think we're well prepared for some of the jobs, some of the duties, some of the responsibilities given to us. You're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector, and we're coming right back.
There was the explosion, and I remember just opening my eyes, and it got both of my legs. I had surgery after surgery, and what's going to happen next? The Wounded Warrior Project said, look, brother, everything's going to be okay. 3 months from now, 4 months from now, a year from now, you'll be fine. I don't know if I would be as well adjusted as I am now if it wasn't for them.
To learn more, call 1-877-832-6997 or visit woundedwarriorproject.org.
Can we be real for a minute? I'm a high school math teacher, and I'm a firefighter.
Man, we're going to have you out in just a minute, okay?
I'm a designer.
I'm a retired VP in business.
And I'm a student.
I'm a mother.
I'm a business analyst, and I'm a volunteer firefighter.
You thought we just fought fire?
Firefighters get trained to do so many things.
Right here. Get sharp.
What we do is serious business.
Three-quarters of the nation's first responders are volunteers. That includes here in Connecticut. And lately, it's been harder than ever, with fewer citizens volunteering.
From teenage cadets like me
to seasoned veterans like me.
So what are you waiting for?
You ready to make a difference?
Ready to join our team?
Your community needs you. We need you. Visit everydayheropt.org or stop by your local firehouse today and take the first step of joining your fire department.
Do you live in Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Florida, Mississippi, or Texas? Do you own a private security company? These are two separate questions, so you don't have to own a security company, but do you? That would be of interest to us. The reason why I'm asking is I'm going to give two people the opportunity to own their own business with zero startup. I'm going to finance you personally, train you, and help you to market and set up a business in your own area. Sounds too good to be true, I know. We are opening up several businesses in the southeast area that's called Public Safety Services. You can go to our website at publicsafetyservices.org. We provide community service officers and public safety officers and other services to law enforcement. What we do is we take away some of their responsibilities, some of their responses to non-emergency, non-violent type of calls, and you can do the same thing. I'm interested in talking to individuals or security businesses that are in good standing, licensed and insured. Send an email to helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We will arrange a phone conference call and then a meeting immediately with you. Our service, Unified Law Enforcement and Public Safety Services, is a force multiplier, and there's no other time like today for us to get out there and make this substantial business in your community, especially with the law enforcement being so understaffed. PublicSafetyServices.org. Go check it out today. If you're interested in owning your own business, well, now is your chance. Send us an email, helpdesk@privateofficer.com, for more information. There are many security officers across the country every day putting their life on the line and doing their best to help others, even when they know that things could get rough. They might even get hurt or even lose their own life. We don't recognize security personnel as much as we ought to. David Coleman is an example of that very thing. Off duty, leaving work, when suddenly he sees a commotion. He runs back in to see what's happening, and a man had just been stabbed. David immediately rendered aid to the wounded victim as he cautiously looked around for the suspect, asking people to call 911 and asking about where the suspect went. The suspect had already fled out the door, and David went about the business of rendering aid to this man until police and fire and EMS got there. He was off duty. He could have left. He could have ran the other way. He could have went home to his family. But no, he stayed and he protected those customers. He protected the people around him, and he saved the life of that stabbing victim. Jeff Lynch, another prime example of that very thing. On September the 9th, during a football game, September 9th he got an award, but during a football game, he put himself in between several people that were fighting, and he got shot in the head. Jeff could have walked away, but instead he broke up the fight, tried to break up the fight. He recovered despite having a bullet wound in his head, and yes, this did occur on September the 9th, and he did receive an award last week. Trevor Young, another example, head of security for the Blue Flame Lounge in Atlanta, Georgia. He was on duty about a week ago when gunshots rang out. Several people were shot. He could have ran for a closet. He could have ran for a back room. He could have ran out to his car and taken off. But Trevor stayed. He provided first aid, life-threatening injuries one person sustained, but he stayed, and Security Officer Young's quick thinking, applying pressure, saved the life of that man. In Branford, Connecticut, another security officer put his life on the line when a fight involving a knife broke out at a high school football game. According to authorities, this was really a very dangerous situation. Now, the security officer's name hasn't been mentioned in the news article, but he was definitely a hero nonetheless. And this happens every single day across the country. People putting their life on the line. And when I say people, I'm talking about not only law enforcement, not only the EMS people, not only firefighters, but security personnel, loss prevention, and anyone affiliated or working in public safety. Before I go into my next break, I want to mention how you can get directly involved. We have a memorial response team. We have a benevolent response team that helps wounded security officers. We also need folks in various areas of every state to get involved with Crime Stoppers, to work as a volunteer with Crime Stoppers, as a representative of Private Officer International when a security officer is murdered. We also need you to join the various committees that we have. We're always looking for folks to get involved. If you want to get involved, now is the time. We really need you. helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Send us an email. I'm going to take another quick break. We got some breaking news, and then I want to talk about those 3 essential pieces of equipment that every security officer needs.
Human trafficking is slavery.
And it happens all over America. any child, any woman, any man could potentially become a victim of human trafficking.
I am a victim of labor trafficking.
I was a victim of child sex trafficking, but now I own my body.
Human trafficking is any kind of forced labor.
It can happen to anybody.
I am a mother.
I am an author.
I am a son.
I'm an advocate.
I am an educator.
I'm a sister.
I am a brother.
I'm so much more than what happened to me.
I am strong.
I am brave.
I am outspoken.
I am compassionate.
I am a survivor.
I'm a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor of human trafficking.
All throughout the show today, I've mentioned that I would bring to you later in the program 3 specific tools that every officer needs to have. No matter where you're assigned, no matter the position that you hold, every officer needs these 3 specific tools. Well, actually, there's a lot more than just 3, and I wanted to expand on that. So let's start with the first one. Many would think that it's firearms or body armor or maybe a pen or some other instrument to do your job with. But it's actually a lot more than just those physical tools that you need. Number one, you need to have intuitiveness. You need to have understanding of what's happening. The Bible calls it discernment. You need to have intuition about you that allows you to see a situation for what it is, or a person for what it is, to be able to read the scenario around you, to be able to understand what's happening very quickly, to assess very quickly. And that will help to not only possibly save your life, but to put you on track as to what's happening and what you need to do next. You need to have a level head. Now, unfortunately, many people are good at their job, whatever that might be, but they don't have a level head. They are hot heads, and they just are not good at reasoning. They hype themselves up. And you've all seen people like that. It's the my way or the highway attitude, and that doesn't help, especially in situations that you are trying to de-escalate. You're only escalating those. The third thing that you really need is good communication skills. You can have all of that physical attributes. You can be muscular, you can be strong, you can lift 500 pounds above your head. You might be an expert, firearms expert. You might have all of those other abilities to do the job. But if you're not a good communicator, if you have a hard time even holding a conversation with friends and relatives, then when you are getting face-to-face with a person that you don't know, and you're trying to understand what they're saying, and you're trying to relay back to them, and you're going back and forth, it makes things very difficult. And sometimes, obviously, it comes across very unprofessional. The next thing that you really need to have is empathy. And if you don't have empathy, you're in the wrong business. If you work with the public, whether you're working on the front line at Walmart or on the front line of your local police force, fire department, EMS, or a security officer at any type of business, residential community, it doesn't matter. You need to have empathy. We can enforce the law, we can enforce the rules, we can do our job, but there comes a time when we need to understand. We need to be able to identify with that person who might be in crisis. Maybe they're having a mental health crisis. Maybe they're a drug-induced crisis, alcohol. Maybe they're homeless. And really, to no avail, that they are still on the street. Maybe it's not even of their own doing. We need to understand that not everyone's a criminal. Not everyone's a drug head. Not everyone is out to get us. So while we are talking, communicating with them, understanding better as to the situation happening, we can show empathy and sympathy. It's a necessity. If you can't do that, you may not even be human. I mean, that's what robots are for, right? And the last thing I think that every officer needs is tolerance. There's a certain amount of disrespect, a certain amount of verbal attack, a certain amount of one's position on a subject that we have to tolerate. We have to, blow it off, shrug it off. During the protests in recent years, many law enforcement officers came face to face and toe to toe with people who screamed and yelled and disrespected and cursed and threatened and did everything they could legally do without getting locked up. And the police officer just had to stand there, toe to toe, face to face, oftentimes just taking it all in and letting it roll off their back. As long as they don't physically assault you, as long as they don't try to disarm you or break the law in a degree where you have to take enforcement action, that's all you can do is stand there and take it. Intuitiveness, level head, communication skills, empathy, and tolerance are a must for anyone working with the public, regardless of where or what position, but certainly when you're working the front line as a police or security officer. And in closing, there are definitely some physical needs that you have to have in this job. You have to have defensive tools. Whether you're working in a less lethal atmosphere or a lethal atmosphere, you need to have defensive tools. I think every security officer should be armed. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but you certainly should be able to defend yourself. If you're not allowed to have any type of less lethal tools, you have to have some physical training, self-defense. I preach this all the time, whether it's boxing or wrestling or just some takedown techniques or some of the martial arts. You need to be able to defend yourself. The other thing you need to have, I believe, is body armor. I know some people don't believe in it, but I can show you hundreds, probably thousands of examples over the years where both police and security officers were saved because they were wearing body armor. Many of them now are also stab resistant, so not only do they protect you from the bullets, but they also protect you from edged weapons, whether that be a knife, a razor, or some other type of edged weapon. Just this past weekend, a security officer was in a gun battle. He was shot, but he was wearing body armor, and he was in and out of the hospital in less than 24 hours, thankfully. And the last thing that I really do believe that every security officer should have, regardless of where you're working or your position, is body cameras. Again, many companies, many old-timers, they push against it. They don't like them. They don't believe in them. Maybe it's because they're afraid of what it might catch them doing that would be improper, illegal, or against company policy. But once again, I can show you hundreds and thousands of cases where body cameras caught the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It caught what actually happened, and it saved the officer from prosecution. It saved the company or the agency from lawsuits, or even when police officers and security officers have been prosecuted, that body camera evidence was presented, and again, pictures speak volumes, and they are your witness. And because they had that body camera footage, they were found not guilty by juries and by bench trials. These are the tools that we need, defensive tools. Communications, we mentioned earlier, very important. Body armor, body camera, level head, empathy, tolerance, and discernment. Without these tools, you will not be effective in your role. You will not be effective in providing the services not only that the client expects, but the public expects now from a security or law enforcement officer. And that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio. Thanks for being here. Tell your friends and neighbors to listen in. And if you're not already a member of POI, please go to privateofficer.org and sign up today. Until the next time, y'all be safe, be blessed, and we'll see you back here on the radio.
At the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Federal Employee Program, we're helping you spend less on your prescriptions. With the FEP Medicare Prescription Drug Program, eligible members with Medicare can pay lower out-of-pocket costs for higher-cost drugs and get additional approved prescription drugs than our traditional pharmacy benefit, all with the same FEP premium. There's even a cap on the amount you pay out-of-pocket on prescriptions each year, helping you save money. That's the benefit of Blue. Learn more at fepblue.org/MedicareRx.